Right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. So, our next session, we will embark on this next journey with Roblox, CodeCombat, and Project Lead the Way as they unravel the secrets to crafting immersive and equitable educational experiences. Discover how these digital landscapes foster collaborative learning and how, with the magic wand of AI, we are sculpting the educational platforms of tomorrow. So, without further ado, your speakers for your next session.
There we go. Hi, guys. I'm Rebecca Kantar. I'm our VP of Education at Roblox. For anyone who I've never met, which I think is most of you, I have a background in game based and simulation based high stakes assessment in both educational and workforce contexts. And I was fortunate to join Roblox when Roblox acquired my company, Embellis, in 2020. And once I arrived at Roblox, I thought there was an amazing opportunity for us to build on a lot of the organic adoption of Roblox Studio, which is the authoring side of our platform that had already been happening in classrooms and in more informal learning environments around computer science, game design, game development, but to also expand the aperture of how folks thought about teaching and learning with Roblox. So we're going to share some of our best and most phenomenal examples of what learning can look like when really well executed through excellent game design and development on our platform. All right. First off, we have an ambitious goal by 2030 to scale up our learning across our platform to reach 100 million students annually. And I should say this is with deep, rigorous experiences, not just kind of light edutainment or gamified levels, but experiences that are really designed across learning objectives. And we'll get into more of those in a moment. For anyone who's not familiar with Roblox, which I'm guessing is not many folks in this room, we are a global platform that aspires to connect folks with optimism and civility for shared co-experiences. Those experiences could be games, they could be simulations, they could be explorable explainers, concerts, brand activations, anything you can imagine you can create on our platform. And we have millions of creators worldwide who create these experiences. So it's not Roblox as a company making this or that thing. Instead, it's a global network of creators like the ones you'll hear from today. Okay, so as I mentioned, we really focus on how do we make the learning experiences on our platform deep and rigorous. We do this by having a community fund, we call it Roblox Community Fund, that makes grants that pair together outstanding educational providers with outstanding game developers. And our thesis is that if you're able to create the right partnership between a game designer and a curricular or instructional designer who come to the entire game development process with absolute clarity on the core learning objectives and how the steps in a game loop or a player progression map on to each of those learning objectives, you can develop an experience that's simultaneously fun and engaging, but also rigorous, because the core thing you're doing is the very thing that yields the instructional gains that we're looking for. And it's also the thing that's challenging and stimulating and fun. This is often, I think, what folks aspire to create when they think about creating educational games. But my major realization coming in from years of working on game-based assessment is that oftentimes teams fall flat because they don't get this marriage of the core game design loop and the core learning objectives right at the outset, and it becomes really challenging to retroactively address that shortcoming. You end up adding a lot of complication, but not a whole lot of meaty complexity in the cases where your experience is not deep enough or rigorous enough, and then it's just a mess. So that's what not to do. We have a number of grantees who have great instructional experiences on the platform. Encourage you to check them out. And I'm going to turn it over to Nick and Jason, who are going to share a little bit more as examples of what went right. Thanks.
Thanks, Rebecca. Hi, everyone. I'm Jason Rausch. I'm with Project Lead the Way. I lead our instructional development team. For those of you not familiar with Project Lead the Way, we started as a grassroots effort in upstate New York about 25 years ago. We've now blossomed into a network of over 100,000 teachers. We serve 2.4 million students in all 50 states from pre-K through 12. Our mission is to bring project-based learning to all of our students and really empower our teachers to prepare our students not only for a STEM-driven world, but to problem solve, create value, and most of all, help other people. So that's core to everything that we do. We have a vast network of support for our teachers. I think that's one of the greatest things that we do. But I always say this: how many of us have raised our hand at one point or another in a classroom and asked our teacher, "When am I ever going to use this stuff?" All right, a few of you. I did as well. Um, and Project Lead the Way answers that with authentic preparation and really challenging students to tackle problems that matter to them and giving them the power to choose the problems that they solve. So, one of the first experiences that we tackled was immunodefense. So, in the past 4 years, this has become a high stakes conversation, a matter of life and death. And we wanted to see, could we create an opportunity to address this topic in a fun and playful way? Because after all, learning should be fun. And we also have come to a moment in time, we stand in awe of what Roblox has created with their community to reach students anywhere, anytime, and to collaborate, communicate, to engage in ethical reasoning mindset and problem solving and creativity on a global scale. We wanted to see if we could take a unique feedback loop, which I think is the core to any good game design. One, as Rebecca said, making sure we're attached to rigorous core standards. So you'll see that our standards are attached to NGSS. We really also spend a lot of time learning from those that know this craft, all of you, well. To get to the learning fast, we have to have observable moments where we can understand, are we on the right track? Or are we on the wrong track? So we chose this knowing that others have attempted before. Uh, Biology continues to be a required course in the United States. We've all sat in a classroom and luckily, or hopefully, some of us had a great teacher that maybe lectured to us about immunodefense. Maybe we got some interactives or watched a video. We probably all saw a flowback chart like this that talked about how you go from innate defense to active defense. What we wanted to do was to challenge ourselves to see if we could put students in the role of the white blood cells to learn the powers that they control and how they collaborate together to protect the body. So our first immersive experience on Roblox is Pathogen Patrol. As you see, we enter as your avatars into a human host. We decided not to make it high stakes. So if you fail at the game, the host doesn't die. I just wanted to call that out. But you take on the active role of a neutrophil, a macrophage, a dendritic cell, and you work together to learn enduring understandings over extended gameplay how to defend the body. So here you're seeing neutrophils using degranulation, creating or killing bacterial infections, releasing antibodies. Where I knew we were on the right track with this is when we play tested and beta tested at Parkland High School in Allentown, Pennsylvania. Quick note, if you ever have some time, look up Parkland High School on Google Maps. They designed it to look like the Millennium Falcon. I thought that was super cool. So if you take anything away, you've got a little homework or a scavenger hunt to go find Parkland High School. But we had a group of high school 9th graders through 12th graders who sat down to beta test. We didn't explain what the game is. We didn't explain the core game loop. We just asked them play. And the ones that had no background, they tried. They didn't always succeed, but they never gave up, which was an important piece early on to note. But where I knew we had struck gold is we had some seniors that really barged in and said, we hear you're testing a Blue Roblox game and we demand to be a part of it. And I said, hey, you're more than welcome to participate. The principal and the teacher said, yeah, we're not going to be able to stop them. So we sat them at a table. And again, these are seniors that had experience in our biomedical science program. So they kind of knew, and immediately within 20 seconds, they're, oh, wait a minute, I'm a macrophage. You're a dendritic cell. You're a neutrophil. The four of them sitting around immediately identified the powers that they had and started to coordinate their strategy. Then they go by and look, there's an artery. As they're picking up antibodies, it's like, you know what? I bet we deliver those to the artery. Eventually, these were the first four students to unlock active defense and execute the full core game loop in our beta test. And this is an early version of the game, so I can't tell you how excited we were with what they were able to accomplish. When we started on this endeavor, the clicker is not advancing for me. Is there any way you can advance that? Are you able to advance the slides? Yeah, I don't have anything up here. Well, I'll keep going, but there we go. So when we started this on Endeavor, it was really about the core game loop, the education. Could we put students in unique places that we could never do in a different way we've never done before? Keep them excited and engaged in low stakes learning. At the time, winning awards was not on our radar, so unfortunately, we did not think to connect for Games for Change. But that's an error we'll correct next year. But we are excited to announce we did win the Cody Award for Best Educational Game. Yeah, thank you. But it's been a joy. We're so appreciative of Rebecca and the education team and working along great partners like CodeCombat and Nick to create new and exciting ways to engage our learners. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Nate.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks, Rebecca. Yeah, Path of Control is super awesome. Check it out. One of the things that's really cool about the 3D immersive environment is you get a sense for scale. And it makes it so much easier to see like how big various cells are and that kind of stuff. And that's one of the things that we wanted to do with CodeCombat in our journey from 2D to 3D. So CodeCombat, we've been around a while. We teach computer science, coding, and AI in K through 12 in schools and at home. We've been doing that for a while, but it's all 2D, right? So you got your 2.5D kind of adventure. You write Python, JavaScript code to control your hero, level up, and get really into it because game-based learning. But we wanted to take that game-based learning and make it even more game-based. And we were able to do that on Roblox in partnership with Roblox Education. And that was a challenge for us because we'd never done 3D before. We never made something that immersive, but we wanted to take something that was really engaging compared to other pieces of curriculum in school, but make it engaging compared to other entertainment titles. And there's a really, really good way to fast track that level of engagement, which is to develop for Roblox, which is like an engagement bloodbath on the consumer level. Like at home, the kids, the attention span is so short. And there's a lot of patterns that Roblox games have evolved to deal with this and to compete. And by adopting some of those patterns, it's really, really great for the engagement in the school as well, because you get any of those students that weren't necessarily super into coding, computer science, immunodefense, whatever it is, but those game mechanics that have been kind of tuned and involved in the competitive market of Roblox suck them in within seconds, right? And then you're executing that core game loop, which then hopefully, if you've designed your game well, is that target strategy. And that's what we're doing with coding, computer science. So with Roblox, there are 3 core game loops that we're doing in CodeCombat Worlds. And one of these is kind of that, let's just bring everybody into the field. We want you to code your pets, explore the world, collect resources, level up, craft consumables, kind of make outfits for your pets, just do whatever you want. All of that being powered by code and kind of like easing people into it, because you can code, but you can also just kind of click and play, and you can do that on your mobile, you can do that on your computer, you can do that on your iPad. But when it comes time to evolve what you're doing, you want to be able to learn more coding, and that's where the learning levels come in. So this is like what we've been doing on web for a long time. You would take people from beginner to expert in a scaffolded fashion, delivering that curriculum in these short bite-sized challenges of writing Lua code and leveling up, learning, first you might learn how to call a method, and then eventually you would learn how to do some loops and then some conditionals and then some variables. And that kind of thing really lets you then go back to the overworld and kind of maybe take on harder areas, maybe kind of control more pets at a time. And eventually you want to make your own games. This is what so many learners want to do. And Roblox Studio is a really great IDE for bringing players in, but there's still some accessibility barriers for that. You got to have something that's maybe not a Chromebook because you have to be able to run it. And it's still a pro level IDE. So one of the things that we did was, well, hey, we're teaching kids to code in the game. Can we have them code their game in the game? And so creative mode, you place 3D objects, but you also code the logic for those in Lua, which is the Lua that you're potentially learning in your learning levels. And that's been a really great unlock because the kids can then publish those games straight to Roblox, and you've got that real world impact, and kids are super into that. So you got to have the learning, and in order to make the game-based learning more game-based, you do all of these game-based kind of immersive 3D environments. But you got to have that learning there. And one of the things that, you might run into is you got to make it easy enough to get all those students in. And a lot of the times that really slows down your pacing. And the way that we can speed that pacing back up is that core game-based learning technique of that instant feedback. And so in a 3D immersive world, that's harder than before because you don't have as much control over what they're looking at, where they've gone. They might be off exploring. And so you want to hook up a lot of different kind of feedback mechanisms to give them some help to get them back on track, especially if you're having them doing something challenging they've never done before. So something maybe obvious, you might have beginner-friendly error messages in your code editor so that they can kind of see where they've gone wrong, instantly fix it. That game-based learning growth mindset that comes into that, like, oh, I made a mistake, let me just fix it. That's how you play games, right? That's not like, oh, I have failed. It's just built in, right? No psychological pressure. And you can do that not just in kind of the core learning environment, like technique, like, oh, I got to write the code correctly, but you can do that like, oh, maybe they're getting off track. Maybe they need to pick up the resource that they just dropped, or they need to click over here. So lots and lots of those pieces you got to take more attention to than when you're kind of in a more controlled, maybe 2D web environment for your curriculum. But you can take that to the next level with AI, because the AI can sort of understand, if you give it enough context, everything that's going on around the player, what they've done, what the context is, what they're trying to do, and put something in their language that helps explain it further. So let's say they really didn't understand the error message and they click the ask the AI for help button, or they don't know what to do next, or they maybe have an idea for something, but they don't know how to do it. You can pipe that in to an AI if you prompt it correctly inside the game, stream that back, put some dynamic TTS on it, get that voiceover going so that it's accessible for all the students. And now there's a way to unstick the players for just about anything without having to say, teacher, I don't get it. And then the teacher, has to run over, maybe doesn't know themselves. And this makes it much more scalable and deployable. And so that AI then lets you increase the pacing and the difficulty, because that way of unsticking students is that fallback mechanism. The other thing that you can do with AI is you can give it as a creative tool in the game. So that third core game loop that we were doing, the creative mode, where you can make your own games, takes a long time to learn enough code to code your own games, and it takes a long time to develop the IDE expertise to know how to use something like Roblox Studio, let alone Unreal Engine or Unity. But if you just say, well, let's have a chat with the AI and maybe you can get started laying out your game, and it'll start to place objects in the world, it'll decorate it, put some trees over there. And then you can also have it start to write the code for that. Like, oh yeah, I want to make sure that these glowing Skittles are a little bigger. I should go in points. I should get bigger and level up as I eat them. Like that kind of thing gets players off to the creative races like immediately. And so, maybe your game isn't about coding, maybe it's about something else. But in a lot of cases, there's going to be a way to not only hook in AI to give that instant feedback, but personalize their surroundings so that you can try something harder. But there's also going to be a way to give that AI creative tools piped into that game, able to affect the 3D immersive environment that you're making for them. And that's some of the things that we've been really excited to be able to do on Roblox as we kind of taking CodeCombat game-based learning for coding to the next level. So thanks for checking that one out. And I think we're at time and no time for questions, but appreciate the time and have a good rest of the conference.